Like a lot of people, I used to go out a decent amount in my 20s. And when I look back on it, I'm not sure I ever really wanted to go out in the first place. And by the way, when I say go out, I'm talking about, all that crazy nightlife jazz, like bars, clubs, alcohol, hitting on girls, so on and so forth. There are definitely other healthier alternatives to going out that we'll get into a bit later. But yeah, I'm not sure I ever wanted to or enjoyed this form of going out per se. So why did I end up doing it so much? Why did so many of us? Well, it's really quite simple. I mean, it all comes down to peer pressure at the end of the day. It all comes down to just societal norms and brainwashing, just like with everything else we talk about here. Just like with going to college or getting a job, you get shamed for being weird or being some kind of loser if you don't want to do those things. And, when I look back on it, this just feels like the biggest mass psychosis psyop ever. The biggest scam to get young people to just waste their time and money on stuff that, for the most part, isn't really going to matter at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad by any means. There were definitely some fun nights and memories, but yeah, I'd say over 90% of it was just a total waste of time. All right, so real quick, by the way, this video was inspired by Paulie Walnuts, another up-and-coming YouTuber who he recently made a video about this, and, as I was watching it, I just found it so relatable, guys. And, I think a lot of you would as well. So, yeah, I figured I'd make a video about this too. So, yeah, big credit to him for giving me this idea, and definitely go check out his channel as well. Yeah, big shout out to him. Okay, so part one. Let me quickly preface this by saying that I don't have anything against people who like to go out at all. I mean, if you enjoy doing it, more power to you. I promise you I'm not going to try to stop you. I respect everyone's freedom and life choices to do literally whatever they want to do. But I can't say the same is true the other way around. I mean, just like with college and with working, everyone who goes these quote-unquote so-called traditional paths, they have to try and socially shame and ostracize you for your own personal decision to not want to do these things. For your own personal decision to not want to do these things. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say that going out, is nearly as big of a scam as college or the 9-to-5 wage slave system is. I mean, yeah, you'll waste $20 on some drinks here and there or whatever, but it's not nearly as bad as wasting literally $50,000 on a useless college degree at this point. But it's the same idea, gaslight, shame, ostracize everyone on a macro societal social level until they buy into your scam. And I kind of just thought that it was just sort of always going to be this way. That young people were always going to be immature, reckless, and wild. I mean, the generation before me certainly looked at me that way. And I figured one day I'd view the generation after me in the exact same way too. Just human nature recycling and repeating itself throughout the generations, I guess. But interestingly enough, this didn't happen. I mean, I guess I just got really lucky that the generation that came after me happened to be Gen Z. Probably the smartest and most awesome generation ever, in case I haven't made that opinion clear before. It started when I read this report that Gen Z is consuming far less alcohol than previous generations, which this pretty much matched everything I saw in real life too. I mean, Gen Z is already kind of fast forwarding to that point in life where they see through all the lies and realizes that, everything in life, in this society, in this system, it's just all one big massive scam. I mean, I remember when I was about 18, okay? There was this one guy my age, another millennial, of course. He was like the frat boy type. And he was trying to get me to play all these stupid bullshit drinking games with him at a party. And I just asked him, okay, I mean, what's the point? Like, what's even the point of this? Like, why? And I kid you not, his logic, what he said to me was, well, you're young enough that you could damage your body to that level and still recover. So why not? Like, dude, what the actual hell? I mean, it's like saying, hey, yeah, let's go jump off a relatively low bridge because we're still young enough that even if we break our legs, we'll probably eventually recover. Like, have you ever thought maybe to just skip the process of damaging your body altogether in the first place? I mean, maybe I'm the crazy one here, but I don't know. On a surface level, that just seems like it would make more logical sense to me. Hey guys, so I'm on a mission and I need your help. You see, I've made it the purpose of this channel to defend Gen Z from all these nasty, delusional Gen Z haters, and I've just realized we're starting to get close to taking down the most despicable one yet, the angry guy. This guy is not just another delusional old fart calling Gen Z lazy. He's literally had videos where he openly celebrates Gen Z suffering and even dying. He's just straight up a terrible, terrible human being. Now, thankfully, his channel is rapidly dying and we are rapidly gaining ground on him as we speak. So, if you're new here and enjoying this content, definitely consider subscribing and helping us take down the biggest Gen Z hater out there. The current goal is to surpass him in subscribers by the end of summer. With your help, we can absolutely do this. Part 2, the elephant in the room. Okay, so we can't exactly talk about this subject without addressing the elephant in the room. Actually, it's more like two elephants in the room here. Number one, most of us in this god-awful, horrible economy can barely afford food, let alone have enough money to waste on a night out. And number two, of course, what happened in 2020, which we all remember. I mean, a lot of people have made personal videos on this, and I can definitely relate. But yeah, life just hasn't been the same for whatever reason since 2020. And even though the world's fully opened up back by now, I think that whole experience has just made a lot of us really reevaluate what we actually want from life. We realized that our jobs weren't that fulfilling, and so the Great Resignation happened, thank God. And I think a lot of us kind of just realized the same thing when it comes to going out. I mean, I actually did a decent amount of going out in my 20s, as I mentioned earlier, but after all these years of lockdowns, I kind of realized that we have enough technology and entertainment these days that going out isn't totally mandatory anymore. And I just realized that it was way more practical, even for my wallet's sake, to just mostly enjoy entertainment at home. Now, obviously, you can go way too far in that other direction as well. I'm not saying it's good to literally never leave the house and never socialize either. But one thing Gen Z, and especially Gen Z men, have mastered that I really, really respect is that they've harnessed their ability to just use video games for entertainment, and they've sort of leveraged it into the ability to walk away if the situation calls for it. Is it better to go out and participate in society than just stay home and play video games? Generally speaking, yeah, I would say so. But there does come a point where society just becomes way too toxic, degenerative, and abusive in its own right to where, sometimes you got to have the ability to just walk away, just to take a break for a second. I mean, I read one great quote a while back that oftentimes the threat of an ability is more powerful than the ability itself. And this was really profound. I mean, think about what that actually means. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be staying home playing video games your whole life. It just means when modern society gets way too toxic and abusive, you have to have the ability to say no and walk away. And you can always come back another time when society learns its lesson. But when you just straight up lose your ability to walk away altogether, well, that's when you lose your self-respect and everything else in life just starts working against you because, at that point, people can sense you're desperate and they know they can exploit you. Whether that comes to a job, a toxic relationship, the social stigma around not going out and destroying your liver like an alcoholic. You don't always have to say no to these things, but you need to always maintain your ability to walk away, and say no if the situation calls for it. And thanks to Gen Z's Giga Chad-like ability to say no to society, I think we're finally starting to see signs of real progress on the horizon. More and more, I'm finally starting to see headlines and news reports, even from left-leaning sources like CNN and the New York Times. They're finally starting to care about young men and take their issues more seriously. Though I'm not even exactly sure they actually care about young men themselves. To me, it's more that they've seen how they're now missing many of the valuable services young men provide to society, and they want to have those services back because, young men have totally checked out of their scam of a system. But I'm still skeptical that they necessarily even care about us personally as people, if that makes sense. But still, though, this is good progress. These conversations never really happened for men of previous generations, and that's just because men of previous generations were just cucks. I'm just going to come out and say it. My generation, the millennials included, right? We just didn't have the ability to walk away and say no. And, when you're constantly always available, always willing to give your life for somebody else, always sacrificing yourself, without expecting anything in return. People are going to take it for granted and stop appreciating it. And then once you walk away, only then do they finally stop and realize, hey, maybe we actually needed you more than we thought here. Part 3, healthy alternatives. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, I thought I'd leave you with some healthy alternatives here as well. I'd say alternative ways of going out are a great way to have all the benefits you want of a healthy social life without having to totally obliterate your liver and your wallet in the process. You know what I mean? Yeah, so the first thing I'd recommend is just going out and traveling more, which I've already talked about this in many videos before. Now, I know things are expensive and not everyone has the money to do that, so don't worry. The second alternative I'm going to suggest after this is totally free. But traveling actually isn't as expensive as you might think. I literally spent my entire 20s living in cheap hostels in Europe. Some of these are as cheap as $10 per night or even less, which, by the way, is already way cheaper than these insane rent prices you're paying in America right now. Now, you'll have to share these rooms with multiple people, which, yeah, this can suck, but sometimes it's cool too. You know, it's actually a great way to meet all sorts of people from all over the world, coming from all different walks of life, who all have different perspectives and worldviews. And I noticed very quickly that this was a much better way of developing my social skills personally than, going out in my hometown, which I always grew up in. Because, especially if you grow up in a small town, right? Like everyone knows each other. And at some point, every interaction just becomes the same old predictable scripted conversation. It's just so shallow and fake. And the other way I'm starting to see more and more of is people are actually starting to form these men's groups where you just hang out with some other men, as friends, talk, socialize, open up about anything, allow yourself to talk about your insecurities and vulnerabilities, which we're just never allowed to do as men for some reason, right? And by the way, this isn't to say that women can't do the same or to exclude women from this conversation, but what I've generally noticed is that women generally tend to have more supportive friend groups anyway, so this is inherently less of an issue for them. I don't know what it is about us guys, to be honest. Maybe it's the issue of, we feel like we constantly have to outcompete each other and be more alpha than the other guy, and we just tend to be less supportive of each other for that reason. I mean, is that what it is? I had a brief red pill phase in my life a few years back, but I kind of let it go when I realized that we as men, we're just as big of a problem as women or society as a whole is. I mean, we can be absolutely awful to each other. We're just not very supportive of each other, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. I mean, case in point, there was another great video I saw from Random Hero Gaming the other day, another fantastic up-and-coming YouTuber, and he made a great point about this. So what he was saying is, if a woman were to say, she's taking some time to focus on herself, she's just staying single, she just wants to focus and develop herself as a person, right? Perfectly normal and reasonable. Everyone's generally going to be super supportive of this. But if a man says the same thing, like, if you were to say as a guy, yeah, I just want to stay single and work on myself a bit. Literally, no joke, everyone has to chime in, especially other guys. Well, only other guys, to be honest, and be like, oh, you're just coping, bro. You're just coping. Like, it's only considered cope if a man does it for some reason. And just to build on this point even more here, for the most part, it's not women who accuse us of coping. It's always some red pill douchebag who watches way too many alpha male podcasts who, I guess this is just their way of stroking their fragile alpha male ego. Like they have to put down other men to feel better about themselves. They can't accept that maybe, just maybe, the traditional path actually isn't for everyone. I mean, I get at least one or two of these comments on every single one of my videos too, and to me it just seems like the new way of trying to shame, gaslight, and manipulate other men into playing their stupid alpha male games and being a total cuck for the absolute scam of society and this whole system once again. I mean, they're wasting their time playing a stupid game with no winners, and they know it too, intuitively they know it too. So they're just trying to come up with whatever clever label they can think of next to try and shame and gaslight you into playing the same stupid game of traditional success that they're playing. First, it was calling you lazy and soft, and then when that didn't work, they leveled up their insults and called you a communist. And now that that's not working either, it seems like the next evolution of this label is just this whole douchebag, oh, you're just coping, bro, you're just coping. I mean, everything I say in my videos is true. I don't see how it can be cope if it's true. If it makes you feel better, like if you just really need that in your life, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Go ahead. Just believe that every guy's coping. I really don't care, and I'm pretty sure no one else does either. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's all I really have to say about this. Also on top of this, Gen Z is also being accused of being, Peter Pan stay-at-home sons who never grow up. But this actually is a good thing too. And we talk about this more in this video right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks so much for watching.